All right, this is take number 2. Somehow we lost connection on the first one, even though I'm clearly on my Wi-Fi. So sorry about that. I don't think too many people caught the first one. But we're back. We're live. Woo! Sorry for Carl, because I did see that Carl jumped in on it, and then he was gone. So anyway, take number 2. We're live. This is how shit happens. You know, the internet fails us every now and then, and we just roll with the punches. So take 2. Begin. All right. Hey, Bronwyn, how's it going? All right. As always, Matt asked some great questions. And Matt started us off strong. And he wanted me just, I guess, to talk about post-competition mindset. So, Matt usually is trolling me, but he wanted to talk about a very good topic to start us off. And he's always starting off strong. So, post-competition mindset. So, obviously, you know, a lot of us, died for a very long time. We're very focused on competing in one particular show or a couple shows or finishing a season or making it to the World Championships or whatever. So, I see where Matt's coming from because Matt did just end his competition season. And I feel like a lot of us just ended our competition seasons. Not me personally, but a lot of people. The season is ending, and we're pretty much trying to figure out what the hell to do since we don't have a show to do. And really, what I always encourage people to do post competition, first of all, is make sure we're really increasing our food to make sure we're recovering that way, but just focusing on something else mentally. So. Our goal should not be necessarily physique driven or right after a contest. Obviously, we want to make sure that we do get back into the gym. Yeah, growth season gains for the win, Carl said. So yeah, we want to make sure that our goals aren't necessarily physique driven. We want to focus on some things that maybe we were missing, during contest prep. I know that Carl's tuned in, Lydia's here, and Tommy. We all got husbands, wives. It's a nice opportunity for us to spend a little bit more time with them, spend more time with the kids, and let's refocus on some things that we missed out. Go out to dinner, and have not necessarily an untracked meal, but a little bit looser meal. So we want to focus on those kind of things. Also, it's a great opportunity to start a new hobby. So let's say, for instance, like you've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar or play the piano, or you wanted to pick up anything. I was going to say knitting, but I feel like none of my viewers are going to be knitting. But we want to try to pick up a new hobby, depending on the weather. Now it's fall and winter. If you want to go snowboarding, find something else that you could do in the season and stick to that. Everything doesn't need to necessarily revolve around the gym. Yes, you still want to work out. Yes, you still want to roughly hit your diet. But we just want to focus our mind on other things, not necessarily all bodybuilding all the time, because there's a time and a place for bodybuilding. So I would say post-competition, shift our focus a little bit, and then try to find out some things that we were missing on and make up for a little bit of lost time. Matt, number 2 question was, it was more of a statement. He said, holiday macro tracking. Obviously, Thanksgiving for us is tomorrow. For a lot of us here in the U.S. I have a couple people that tune in from the U.K. So tomorrow is a holiday for us. So basically hey Karen, thanks for tuning in as always. What we try to do for the holidays is, first of all, we want to, and Leah, yeah, checking in tomorrow. Send your weight, not the day after Thanksgiving. Anyway, holiday tracking is we want to make sure if we do have a high carb day or a refeed day, we want to schedule that refeed day on Thanksgiving itself or whatever day we're celebrating on. I also like to see, depending on if people have lower calories, they could do like a 2-day macro bridge. So obviously we're getting this late on Wednesday, but what I encourage some of my clients to do is take some of their calories from Wednesday and then save it, so eat less on Wednesday, and then move those numbers to Thursday so they could eat more. Now, those are for the really only people that are going to be, like dieting in the spring or have been coming off of a contest prep. If you are in a full-blown off season, you don't need to bring your scale to the table. I feel like no one really needs to bring their scale to the table, because if we've gone through contest prep, if we've been dieting for a long time, we pretty much know what's in food. Most importantly, and I think Matt was kind of dancing around the fact here, but what's most important is, to enjoy the time with our family and friends who are around us. Because like myself, I don't really see my family too much. Obviously, I'm with my wife all the time, but as far as like my mom and dad, my brother, my grandma, I don't get to see her a lot. So focus more on the people that are around and not necessarily on the food, because I feel like a lot of our gatherings are revolved around food, and we sometimes feel pressured like we have to eat, when in reality, the people that are around us care more about, us rather than the food that we're eating. So just going into tomorrow, just realize that it's not necessarily about the food, it's about the people. All right. Grind, baby. Yeah, buddy. Alex. All right. So Bronwyn asked, what is the best way to get protein for muscle building? Is eating protein better than drinking a protein shake, or does it even matter? Let me just add an example. Is eating 150 grams of carbs of real food better than drinking 100 grams, she meant probably protein there, grams of protein shakes all day? Yeah, so and that is a great question. It's a little bit on the more advanced side, and that's what I expect out of my clients, honestly. So Bronwyn is one of my clients. And, this is a question that I don't get regularly, but is a very valid question. Now, if we're looking at protein as a whole, sure, we could drink whey protein and still hit our protein number every single day. But is that going to provide us? Yep, Carl already got it. Carl said it right away. What I was getting at is the micronutrients are going to be a lot more important. So the vitamins and minerals that you're getting from your beef, your chicken, your tuna, whatever your protein source, is going to be a lot more valuable to you than a protein shake. Now, am I telling you that you should not drink protein? Absolutely not. Because somebody like myself, or anybody that's a little bit heavier, that's a bodybuilder, I know Carl's in here. Carl weighs like 230 or something like that. He's probably eating quite a bit of protein a day. So if he has, 1 or 2 protein shakes, that's not going to be the majority of his protein intake. Myself, I eat 280 grams of protein a day, and of that 280 grams, if I had to put a number on it, I believe it's like 50 grams that I'm getting from protein shakes alone. Do I win a hug? Yeah, Carl, when I see you next, I'll give you a great big hug. So yeah, I mean, if you look at it, like my ratio, obviously 50 grams compared to 280 grams, I'm not drinking a lot of my shakes. The only time that I would like people to see drinking a lot of shakes is if they're on the road and they just don't have access to good protein sources. You could drink a couple protein shakes throughout the day to get you through, but really I want to see whole food meals. And I know Carl is a huge advocate of whole food. Give me the whole butter. That's what he always says. I could hear him in my head right now because I was with him a couple weekends ago. And that's what he always says. So yes, number one would be trying to have some kind of whole food protein if possible, and then fall back to a protein shake. Carl's giving me a lot of love. All right, Lydia just said another question regarding protein, so I will hit that. For a figure-sized competitor, what is the max you would suggest for protein supplements? So Lydia, typically figure competitors are a little bit smaller. Obviously, you're not going to be like as large as I am as a bodybuilder. But really, if your protein intake, Lydia weighs, probably right around max, 140 in her peak off season, not even. So I would say, if you're taking in 180 grams of protein a day, like the most you'd want to take in from a shake is maybe, 30 or 40 grams. So just one protein shake. But once again, that's not a definite answer. You could eat whole food protein sources throughout the day. Me, since I'm intaking so much, I do it out of convenience. Plus, I do like the factor of like a whey isolate where you could absorb it a little bit faster as far as post-workout goes. But is it 100% necessary? No, because once again, supplements are they fill in the gaps of our diet. So technically, we don't necessarily need supplements to get our nutrients in. Obviously, there's other supplements to help with performance, but as far as a nutrient base, no, we don't necessarily need it. So you don't really have to drink any protein powder if you don't want to. Obviously, I would suggest other supplements to work into your routine. All right. All right, let's go on to the next question. I will go back in the thread and answer these. Lydia asked my opinion on sauna use. So, very funny story. My gym has a sauna, and some people legitimately only come to the gym to use the sauna. And their theory is that since they're working up a sweat, they are burning off calories. Now, I get where they're coming from, because usually when people are working out, you know, they sweat and they feel like they're expelling energy. Really, when you're just sitting in a sauna, you're just losing water by sweating. I don't really think it's elevating your heart rate that much where you're really burning a lot of calories. Now, some people, if you want to use the sauna for a warm-up to get the blood flowing, like when it's cold as shit, like it is here in Northwest Indiana, more often than not, you know, it's going to be in the 20s or the teens all winter. So some people, if you want to go in the sauna to warm up, and I'm shaking the table here, if you want to go to the sauna to warm up, I'm all for it. Yeah, go for it. But if you're going in there for your workout, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. And some people actually work out in the sauna, which I find is just crazy. You know, if you really want to sweat that bad, just up the intensity of your workout. So I don't really recommend the sauna unless it's for like warm-up purposes, just to get the blood flowing. Garrett asked, in your workout plans for us all, how important it is to stick to the exercises in order. If a bench or machine is taken by someone, is it better to move on or come back to it or wait? Same question for squats. If the squat rack is taken, or do you move on? So, Garrett, that's a great question, and I know where he's coming from, because obviously Garrett works with me. I'm sure the people that regularly tune into these videos know he asks a lot of good questions. And if you're in a hurry in the gym, you know, I would just skip it, honestly, and come back to it later. You know, if someone's gonna camp on the squat rack for 30 minutes or an hour, like, you don't want to be sitting around waiting for that. Just go ahead and go through the rest of your workout and then circle back later. As far as the machines being interchanged, the sets and all that, yeah, I mean, definitely they could be interchanged, you know, if something's taken. Usually I try to put them in a specific order. You know, sometimes I want the main movement to come first, like the squats. Sometimes I like to put them last, just to challenge you in a little bit different way. So that there is a little bit of rhyme and reason to the way that I structure them. But yeah, absolutely. If you're going to have to wait for, you know, more than 5-10 minutes to get on a machine, just go to the next one. So that was another good one. Nicole asked, do I recommend female competitors supplement with creatine? If so, what is your recommended use and dosage? I am looking to gain strength in the off season and enhance my performance in the gym. All right, very good, Nicole. So yeah, obviously I recommend pretty much everyone take creatine. It's one of the most researched supplements out there, and most studies have been done on it. And it's just tried and true, in all honesty. And I feel like a lot of people give creatine a bad name for whatever reason, because they associate it with kidney damage, with water retention, and, you know, all the above. So yeah, I recommend that everybody takes creatine. Now, as far as the dosage, and I'm trying to get this glare off my head. I'm sorry, I'm not quite bald, but I just very shiny. My forehead, I'm sorry. But as far as the dosage goes, I would say that for females, anywhere from 3 to 5 grams, depending on your weight. That's every day. You don't have to load it. You don't have to come off of it. So it's not something, you know, that you need to come on and off of. And really, like, if you're a male, because I know that's a lot of males are out here, you could really push it. Really 5 to 8 grams, 5 to 10 grams for some guys that are just really large. I don't think you need to take any more than 10 for sure. At that point, you just might be wasting it, because really what it's helping with is just intramuscular water storage. And obviously, if you're a little bit more muscular, you have more room to fill out. So that's why you might need to take up to 10 grams. For females, 3 to 5. You know, if you're a very muscular woman, you know, maybe 5 to 8, but no more than that. And she's talking about gaining, yeah, forehead, Thomas, dude, I know. Just a big forehead that lights bright. As far as other supplements, obviously for females, hopefully everyone, and not just females, I mean, I'll just say this for everybody. So hopefully everyone is taking some kind of joint health and some kind of high quality fish oil. So those main two and a multivitamin, I mean, those are like the bare bones. And then if you want to throw a fourth one in there, make it creatine. So those are going to be like your 4 main supplements that I want to see everybody taking. So Nicole, hopefully you're taking some 4 of those or all those. Carl, that one was for you, buddy, because I know that's your top 4 too. But that is very true. Like I said earlier in the video, you don't necessarily need protein. You don't necessarily need pre-workouts. You don't necessarily need pump agents. You don't necessarily need BCAAs if you're in a surplus. So those things all come secondary. That's why joint health, heart health, the creatine, those are the things that you want to be taking regularly and never get off of them. Karen asked, do you feel, okay, we're getting along the same lines for women here. So Karen just competed, probiotic, yes. Yeah, good one, Carl. And I'm going to start getting on one when I get on contest prep here shortly. Karen asked, do you feel for women to gain size, they should strictly lift heavy, relative strength, or switch between a strength phase? So Karen, that is a great question. What I do for all of my athletes, or at least I try to do, especially for ones that are in the off season, honestly, for people that are just going, year round, doesn't matter if they're in a contest prep or not, I try to rotate between strength and hypertrophy training. Now, I'm not saying that I put somebody on a pure strength program, I put somebody on a pure hypertrophy program, because I don't really believe in that. What I believe in is swaying one way and the other during a program. So let's say one program is going to be like 60% strength and 40% hypertrophy. And then the next program I put that on will be 60% hypertrophy and 40% strength. Sometimes it goes 70-30, 80-20, depending on the person. But I always like a mixture of both. So yeah, if you're looking to gain size, and I feel like a lot of people, and I'm really glad you asked this question, I feel like a lot of people, I just had this conversation with someone the other day. I actually forgot who it was. But people make the mistake of during contest prep, they only want to do hypertrophy training. They only want to train in the rep ranges of 15 to 20 because they feel like it's going to help them lose weight. And then when their off season kicks in, they're like, all right, I'm only going to train from 1 rep to 6 reps because I need to gain size. And in reality, all rep ranges serve some kind of a purpose. But what we're looking to do is, maybe if we want to cover them all, hopefully. Do I have people going down all the way to 1 and 2 reps? Absolutely not. Honestly, if you're not a power lifter, if you're not a strength athlete, I don't feel like there's a ton of benefit of pulling a 1 rep max. I haven't pulled a 1 rep max or done anything 1 rep max in literally years, and I don't think I've lost any gains from it. What we want to focus on is being, anywhere from 5, and some of my programs go up to 30 reps. That includes drop sets, and just some sets go up to 25, 30. So yeah, I mean, if we're staying in those kind of rep ranges from 5 to 25, but we're flipping it, per program, or including elements in both, that's what I really recommend. That's what I've seen the most success with, is when we incorporate all of that. And everyone that's asking questions in the thread, I will get to them. You did a 1 rep deadlift the other day. Lydia, I did not do a 1 rep deadlift. She trained with me over the weekend, and I deadlifted for the first time to show her some form because my back was hurt. And that was the first time I've deadlifted in months, but it wasn't a 1 rep max. It was 135 pounds. All right, Alan asked, my experience with mini cuts in the off season, how long should they last at most? All right, I'll start there because he asked a second question there. Mini cuts in the off season, I like to keep them short and sweet. Ideally, I would like to see them run anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. If you want to push it, 14 weeks. In the off season, obviously, we're probably the most fluffy. We have the most fat to lose. We're at the least amount of risk to lose weight. So those mini cuts could be hard and they can be fast. It's when we're in a contest prep that we want to slow things down so we're not losing as much muscle. So really, let's keep it to those ranges. Really, if it's going anything longer, I'd like to see the pace increase. If it's too, if you lose the amount of weight in that time span, great. If you really want to lose a few more, and then this is the second question, I'll cover it now. He asked, what are some good signs to look out for when to pull yourself out of a deficit? So if you're in a mini cut and you've been dieting for, let's say, 12 weeks, and your weight has stalled on week 11 and 12, and if you're in the 13th week, maybe it's stalled again, and you've been cutting all those weeks. If you see a weight stall for a long time, that's a great sign to come out of a deficit, especially if it's just a mini cut. There's no need to cut too much and to prolong that deficit, because in reality, it could end up hurting you in the long run. Just because if you prolong the deficit, you might end up losing strength, you might end up losing weight. And in an off season, your main focus should be gaining lean tissue and not trying to stay lean. Now, obviously, one of the goals should be to try to stay lean in your off season, but that should not be the main driving force. Far too many people are concerned about how they look in their off season and not about gaining muscle. After all, we are bodybuilders, and our main goal should be to gain muscle. When it comes time for contest prep, that's time when we try to hold on to that muscle, but we try to lose the fat. So, Alan, that was a great question. Lydia, what is the funniest / strangest experience you've witnessed as a competitor? So I was actually in the audience for this one. I had to think about it because I've seen a lot. But I was at one show, and one of the bikini competitors was a little wobbly on stage for whatever reason. She may or may not have been drinking before she went on the stage. Some girls like to have a little bit of liquor before they go out on stage. Their coach recommends that for them because it brings out their vascularity. Anyway, she had a little bit too much. I think she started celebrating a little bit early. And she had to be taken off the stage because she could not physically stand. It was pretty funny. I did feel kind of bad. But you should know better when your body's that depleted and you haven't had alcohol for potentially months at a time, that it's going to hit you a little bit harder. So yeah, that she had to be taken off the stage, and she actually never came back. She might have come back for the night show, but yeah, that poor girl. So that was the funniest thing I've ever witnessed, having somebody be escorted off the stage because they just couldn't hold it together. Alan, with another question, another good question. How could you structure out a more in-depth version of a macro diet? For example, I've had friends, family, and clients. I've had them help set up macro plans, and they've almost always confused about what they can eat. So I start writing out a plan, that so they could interchange foods. Okay, I like that. So what I'm asking is, should you include things like moderate glycemic index, essential amino acids, a spoonful of natty peanut butter? Should certain meals be labeled as high or lower glycemic? So yeah, Alan, that is exactly what I do. And honestly, it does confuse a lot of people. That's a little bit higher level, in my opinion. Now, if you're just doing friends and family, I would keep it very simple, just to straight macros. For someone that's a performance athlete, if they're a bodybuilder, if they're a powerlifter, if they're a marathoner or whatever, that's something revolves more around performance, that's when I recommend glycemic index. For someone that's your average everyday person, that's going to be way over their heads. I still send a glycemic index chart to my clients that are a little bit confused on it to help them. But at the end of the day, I would say that just leave that out for your non-competitors, and for your competitors to put that in. Lydia, no, I wouldn't recommend wine, especially if you're in a deficit stepping on stage. And it was right before stage. That's what I'm getting at. All right, let's go to another one. Tommy asked a very relevant question, and it's important for all competitors, so hopefully everyone tunes in for this one, or at least this part. Is sodium tracking and when it's important? So a lot of people, I'll start off with this. I'm starting to get parched here. How long did I make it? 26 minutes. Damn. All right. A lot of people are straight up like afraid of sodium. They think it's a devil. They think it's going to make them hold water. And yes, if you do take in an excess amount of sodium at one point in time, you will hold on to water. But Sodium also helps deliver nutrients to the muscles, helps us get a pump, and makes us perform a lot better. So obviously, we want to make sure that we're intaking enough sodium, especially for someone that's a little bit larger, that has a little bit more muscle mass. It's going to be a little bit more relevant. Now, when to track sodium, really what I like to at least see from my competitors is when they are in a contest prep. We want to hold our sodium intake relatively steady over the course of time. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be to the exact milligram. When I give recommendations, like for contest prep, I give a couple grams. Like I ask somebody, what's your average intake? What have you been intaking? If they say 5 grams, I'll say, all right, let's keep your intake from 3 grams to like 7 grams. And that's a lot. That's a big range. But at least one day you're not going to have 1 gram, and the next day you're going to have 10 grams of sodium. Obviously, those are the times that we're going to see the weight fluctuate the most. So when we're throughout the midst of our contest prep, we want to have a very rough idea. Now, what's most importantly as sodium intake is the last couple weeks, particularly the last week of peak week. We want to make sure that sodium is tracked very, very closely. Just because sodium is one of my basically 3 or 4 determining factors of making someone's peak week plan. What we really keep into account of during peak week is water, sodium, carbohydrates, and of course training. So those are basically the 4 things that, there's others, there's cardio and there's all that, but those are the main things we're looking at going into peak week. We want to make sure that all those things are controlled. If we start eating an exorbitant amount of sodium, we're going to look watery as hell, and especially if we're not eating a lot of carbs. And if we eat a ton of carbs and we're not taking in any sodium, it's not going to help deliver those nutrients to the muscles. So we want to make sure that sodium is tracked, especially during peak week, very, very closely. Now, my clients get a detailed plan on their sodium intake per day. Do I expect someone to hit that to the exact milligram? No, because it's very, very hard to track sodium to the exact milligram. But what I want them to do, instead of having a couple gram range, what I want them to do is hit, maybe a 250 to 500 milligram range, so I know it is as precise as possible, and that way we take all the guesswork out, especially during peak week, and that way we know what to expect, and I know what to expect as a coach, because really the only factor that I want to be manipulating during peak week is looking for how they are responding to carbohydrates. So I don't want to have to worry about sodium. I don't want to have to worry about their water intake, because those are usually kept steady, or I know they're hitting their prescribed amount. I want to watch how they respond to carbs, because that's going to have the largest impact on their physique. All right. Another question from Lydia is my opinion on sports drinks, brand of choice, time, and frequency. So when Lydia asked me this, my immediate response was from the Water Boy, and I said, just get some high-quality H2O. I hope Lydia didn't take offense to that when I told her that answer. But obviously, we want to make sure that we're hydrated first and foremost with water. Now, I used to drink a lot of Gatorade. We just have to be mindful that Gatorade is very bad for your teeth. It is very acidic. It has a lot of sugar in it. It has a lot of unnecessary carbohydrates. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't like water because, let's say, they think that it flushes their nutrients out of their system, in particular electrolytes. So, if you want to replenish your electrolytes through some kind of water-based source that has that in there, I'm for that. Do I necessarily do that? No. But I could see people wanting to do that. So things like I think like Smart Water has that, or like Propel has that in there. Obviously Gatorade. I don't even know if Propel's around, for the record, because I used to drink that shit when I was like 9 years old. Somebody could tell me if Propel's around in the live video if they feel like it. But yeah, electrolytes, anything in there that you want to replenish that's not in water, I could see. Otherwise, just drink your water, drink your BCAAs, you'll be fine. Alrighty. Raymond asked, what is the best advice you could give a newbie looking to compete in men's physique for the first time, or first time and leading into a show? So, Raymond, that's a very broad question, but I'll try to run through it very quickly here for you. So, number one thing, Ray, is to either go to a show and view it in person so you can kind of look at the competitors and see how they're looking at, and picture yourself on that stage. See if it's something that you're actually interested in. Because what we see on social media is not what we see on the stage. A lot of people portray themselves one way leading up to a competition is very different from when we actually see them on stage and how it is run. So I would recommend going to a show. Secondly, if you can't make it to a show, at least look at show pictures. Know what they're looking for. If you could find videos of that particular show, go online, go to YouTube, and look up the videos. Now, some organizations, the NGA in particular, I know offhand, they actually have set videos per their class. So they have videos for figure, they have videos for bodybuilding, they have videos for physique that you could actually go on and look pose for pose on what they're looking for. They have the criteria. If you're going into a particular organization, I would go on their website and look at the criteria for physique, for bodybuilding, for classic physique, because some of these categories can be very, very similar, and you want to know the differences and what they're looking for. You want to know what kind of board shorts to wear, because some organizations have you wear short shorts in the morning, and some have you wear long shorts in the evening, or some just have you wear short shorts all day, or some have you wear long shorts all day. Long shorts, board shorts, you know what I meant. So really, dive into the organization, look at their pictures. Now, as far as getting your diet and your training, hopefully you're listening to somebody like myself who puts out free information. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask someone for your opinion on what you should do for your diet. If you're a first-time competitor, don't be afraid to work with a coach. You know, reach out to somebody who has experience with physique competitors. I'm not saying me, but somebody else that you trust. Another thing that you'd want to do, you know, is really start practicing posing early, because the worst thing you could do is get your diet down, get your training down, and then you pose like shit on stage. I was at Worlds. If Carl, you're still tuned in, we watched the World competition, and it wasn't just bodybuilding. It was every single class. This is at the pro level. They did not pose properly. I was disappointed. Carl was disappointed. Everybody was disappointed from the outside perspective. And that is at the pro level, people don't know how to pose. So if you're the best thing that you can do as an amateur is learn how to pose properly. You could have a physique, an okay physique, and you could propel yourself from 5th to 2nd if you know how to pose properly. So you really should focus on perfecting your posing leading into a show. So Ray, that is my #1 advice for you. Obviously, get your diet and your training down, but get your posing right. Carl, it was sad, and I'm glad that I thought about that. All right. Let me run through some of these that came in the live feed. We're doing great. Seriously, tell them, bro. Yeah, James. All right, James, thanks for tuning in, by the way, buddy. Always glad to see you tuning in. All right, guys, I'm going to run back through the live feed, and then I do have an announcement on Core Nutritionals, so stay to the end of the video, please. Got a big announcement for Core. Carl already knows, but we will go through the live feed here, so sorry if I keep poking the screen here. I'm scrolling through my phone. All right, guys. Leah already said yes, check in tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving. Jacob, all right, let's see, what do you ask here? Is it okay to put an additional individual supplement like citrulline into a pre-workout that is already, yeah. Jacob, yeah, absolutely. I would recommend if your pre-workout is underdosed from citrulline, from beta-alanine, if it's underdosed in caffeine, I mean, whatever you want to throw in there, absolutely do it. Just, I would recommend looking at the efficacious dose. And if you don't know what efficaciously dosed means, it's basically clinically dosed. What is the most optimal amount that you should be taking? That's available online. For instance, creatine is efficaciously dosed at 5 grams. You would want to look that up, and you could add in over the top of your supplements. So that's a good question. Justin, I had an extra scoop of citrulline. All right. Ultra Pump. Yeah. Whey versus plant protein supplementation. Ryan. All right. Very good. So that was kind of along the same lines as the protein question from before. You know, if you look at the breakdown of the branch chains. I don't really know the exact science, the exact research behind it, but there's a distinct difference between plant protein and beef protein. Is that going to affect you at the at the cellular level? I don't know offhand. Honest to God, I'd have to look back into that. So maybe, Ryan, I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I apologize. That is a question I do not know the exact answer to, so I'm sorry for that. But I'm not afraid to admit that. Alex, why so much protein? I thought 1 to 1.25 grams of protein. What benefit does high amount of protein have? What are those calories towards carbs, especially up training volume? Yeah. So, Alex, I did cover this last week. As far as why my protein is a little bit higher in the off season is because mainly when we are in the off season, we're eating more calories in general. And for instance, you're eating a lot more carbs, and with carbs and fats come other trace sources of protein. So when you eat those trace sources of protein, obviously those sources aren't necessarily going to be the best protein sources to eat. For example, like when I eat a bagel, I get 10 grams of protein. Is that what I like to look for per meal is like 2 to 3 grams of leucine, and that's just not going to provide me with a good protein source per meal. So really, that's why my protein is so high in the off season. When I do go to contest diet, my carbs come down, my protein sources change just a little bit. They come a little bit more cleaner, if you want to say that, whatever. But my protein amount will come down as my body weight comes down, but that's why it's so high in the off season. And if in fact I am eating too much protein, it's going to go somewhere. It's going to be converted to carbs. It's going to, be excreted through waste. It's not what I've seen, at least in the research, is that protein, when it's consumed in excess, it's not very easily turned into fat as carbs would be. Obviously, if you're just eating straight up protein all the time, yeah, it's going to be stored as fat. But it's just not as easily done. It ends up getting used or excreted mostly. All right, let's see here. Another one. Bro, the reason behind the shiny forehead is due to all the bright ideas and knowledge. Thomas trolling me. Oh, I can't believe I read that out loud. Oh, God, got me. Do I recommend creatine alkaline or creatine monohydrate for women? I recommend creatine monohydrate for everyone. What does the Balculate best? God, if I could speak. You guys know I struggle reading and talking at the same time. What is the best way to calculate sodium beyond what comes in your food to eat? Examples. If you're low, should you be able to add... Should we add table salt? My scale won't measure that small of a number. Lydia, I would get a drug scale, and it measures to the 0.1 gram. If you really want to add sodium in, it is very easily done. If not, you could use the smallest, teaspoon, tablespoon, whatever you got, and that comes out pretty accurately too. All right, let's see here. Holly. How long do you prefer to work with your clients prior to competition? Is it more beneficial to work with a client through an off-season before a contest prep to learn their metabolism? Yeah, that is a great question, Holly, and thank you for answering that. For a contest prep, I really don't work with people any less than 12 weeks. I feel like, you really need 12 good weeks to work with someone if you want to learn their metabolism. Do I necessarily need to work with them in the off season? Absolutely not. Do I get to learn their metabolism better in the off season? Yes, absolutely. Ideally, what I would like to do and what people are already doing is they're getting in contact with me for 2018, and they're already inquiring with me. They're already telling me what they're eating. They're not necessarily going to start prepping with me right now, but once the new year hits, January, February roll around, we're going to already start. So they've already kind of told me what they're doing. We already kind of laid out a rough game plan, although we're not working together. At least I know what I'm walking into. I'm not just going to walk in January 1st and everyone's going to inundate me with their diets. I really like to keep in close contact with the people that I'm going to be working with. And I do still have a few people to reach out to that said they wanted to work with me in 2018. And I just like to keep an open conversation. You know, how are things going? How's the diet? What are you looking like? And that way, all of a sudden, you know, let's say they're going to compete in the fall of 2018, and I get a hold of them in March, and they are way over the body weight I expected them to be at. They're not eating enough, and they're already doing some cardio. So that's why, that's why I like to keep in contact with people. Even if they're not necessarily working with me, I have like a monthly email I send them, you know, every other month. I just want to see how they're doing. So it's not 100% necessary for me to work with someone in the off season, but I still do like to keep in touch if I know they're going to come work with me for their contest prep. Tina, sorry. Thought it was Tommy. I see a lot of girls opposing in bikini, not spreading their lats and their back pose. At Worlds, some girls had their shoulder blades almost touching. Thoughts on bikini back pose, and people say it was a long one. Yeah, so Tina, I will admit I watched like 30 seconds of bikini at Worlds. I didn't have anybody competing in that class. I really didn't know too many people competing in that one either, so I did not watch it. But just speaking in general for bikini posing and posing across the board, it's not just bikini competitors, because honestly, I feel like bikini competitors have it down pat. They got like 2 poses. You know, it's easy to master 2 poses. Hopefully you can master 2 poses. Now for someone that's in, you know, bodybuilding, there's a lot of poses to do. For figure, there's a few poses to do. For physique, there's a few poses to do. For bikini, you really don't have any excuses and not mastering 2 poses. You got turns, you got poses, and that's it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't like the pinched shoulder blades. I want to see some back width, some back thickness from anyone. If it's a bikini girl, if it's a physique competitor, if it's a figure athlete, you should be able to spread your lats, hopefully. As far as the butt goes along, I'm not a huge fan of spreading their legs wide open. I think that looks kind of trashy. I prefer the little bit more upright posing, in my opinion. You could still activate your hamstrings and get that to show off, get your glutes to lift and everything. You don't need to make it like it's a strip show. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. Let's see. James said he's finally off work. Yeah, Alex, no problem. Never enough protein. All right. Whole foods. Word. Creatine. Yeah. Creatine monohydrate over everything. Theme music. All right. What is this? Jacob, I got two more questions and then the announcement for Core Nutritionals. Heard you talking about 2 to 3 week deficit, 2 to 3 week maintenance a while back. Can you talk about that a little bit? Damn it, Jacob. If it was me I was talking about. I've been talking about it. All right. So what Jacob is getting at here is there was a study that just came out. I think it was from Australia. I have it saved on my computer. Once again, I will post it in the comments so everybody could read through it after this video. It'll be posted right after I post this video. Anyway, they had 2 groups diet. One group dieted continuously for 15 weeks or 16 weeks, I believe, and another group dieted for 2 weeks at a time. 2 weeks at maintenance, 2 weeks in a deficit. 2 weeks at maintenance, 2 weeks in a deficit. And what they saw, so they were in a deficit for the same amount of time. They dieted for 16 weeks, let's say, and what they found was that the group that dieted in the increments, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, lost more weight over time than the group that dieted continuously. So they were in a deficit for all 16 weeks, and the other group was only in a deficit for 16 weeks, but they are also going through these different phases. Now, putting this together, because everybody that pretty much tunes into my live videos here is a competitor, wants to be a competitor, coaches competitors. What I'm getting at and what Jacob wants me to talk about is basically my new theory, and I feel like a lot of people are already jumping on this bandwagon. Whether I started it or not, I have no idea. I'm not going to take credit for it, but it was just something that really jumped out to me because I went through it in the past. And what happened to me was I dieted for roughly 42 weeks, 46 weeks continuously. I lost a lot of weight. I lost roughly like 46 pounds. And looking back at the pictures, I thought I lost a lot of muscle mass. And I'm probably actually never going to post those pictures from the start to the finish because I was just embarrassed looking at them, honestly. I turned pro, I won a pro show, but I was unhappy at the results in hindsight because I knew that that was not the right thing to do. I was coached by somebody else at the time, and I don't agree with those methods. What I am preaching, especially for bodybuilders, because bodybuilders tend to be in a surplus for a lot longer, they tend to get fatter. That's the nature of the beast. I am not close to stage weight. I was actually heavier than I am right now months ago. What I did, and what I am encouraging everyone to do, is take their contest preps in phases. Now, when I was at Worlds and I was talking at dinner to Carl, to Doug, to Patrick, to Thomas about this, they thought I was insane. When I told them that I had already started my contest prep basically a year and a half in advance. And it would be stupid if I dieted for a year and a half continuously. Now, what I did was I went from 207 pounds and I took it down to 191. So I lost, let's say, 15 pounds, whatever the math is, and then I started to increase my calories. That was phase one. So I took, and right now I'm 193 pounds. So I went from 207 to 191, now I'm back up to 193. And that was phase one. I'm going to do 3 total phases in my diet. And next year, you guys are going to be able to walk through this with me. And I'm going to prove everyone that this is the most optimal method, at least for a bodybuilder, to lose weight on and to maintain muscle mass. January 1st, I'm going to start phase number 2. I'm going to take my current physique from 193 to roughly 178, 179, and then I'm going to bring my calories back up, maintaining body weight. I'm going to roughly be, at max 180 pounds. So I'm going to lose another, 13, 14 pounds and then bring my calories back up. Then I plan to compete, which I don't care if anybody knows because it's going to be nice that everybody is going to be able to see me walk through this. I plan to compete in August of 2018. So come June, I'm going to start taking it back down. But that time, I'm going to have my calories increased relatively, and I'm going to walk myself down into a nice contest prep. So I'm going to be within striking distance. I'm not going to have to diet for plus 20 weeks. I'm probably going to have to diet for maybe 10 more weeks from June to August, and then be ready by mid-September completely. And my goal, and I've made this clear, is I want to win the world title in the lightweight championships next year. If I have to go to the Orton, if I have to go to IPE Worlds, I don't care. I'm going to try to win the world championships. And I need to be at my absolute best. And I feel like this method is going to get me there. Now, the particular ratio is going to be different for everyone depending on how much muscle and fat you have. Ideally, I don't want to see anyone diet for more than, really, it's going to be like a couple mini cuts. So like I said earlier in this video, I don't want to see anybody diet for more than 14 to 16 weeks at a time. 16 absolute max. Forget about it. If you can't lose all your weight in 16 weeks, you need to break it up. And that's what I'm doing for myself. I'm trying to be smarter than your average bear, right? This notion that you have to diet for 40 plus weeks, diet for a whole year in a deficit and take no diet breaks. Sure, you have, one refeed day per week. I find it stupid, but it's been sold to everyone that is what it takes to become a competitor. And I'm getting loud because it is so dumb that we all are just used to this. Like, we have to diet for 40 weeks if we want to compete, and that scares people away. If you diet smarter, not necessarily harder, it will benefit you in the long run. So what I'm getting at with this diet method is, what I'd like to see personally is, maybe 12 weeks on, 4 weeks off, or 12 weeks on, 2 to 3 weeks off. We want diet breaks along the way. The longer the diet break, the more time we're going to have to recomp muscle, the more strength we're going to gain back, the more we can increase our food leading into the next deficit. So people need to open their eyes and wake up when it comes to dieting, and not just take the bullshit that everyone else is spoon feeding us because we have to believe that we have to diet for 40 weeks in order to compete in a damn bodybuilding show. We have to take a whole year out of our lives to compete in one show. We could still compete in a show, but it doesn't have to overtake our lives if we diet smarter. So that's the end of my rant. I feel like I'm going to talk about this every single week. I'm going to talk about this all of 2018. But really, I feel sad for people that have to diet for 40 plus weeks. And first of all, and most importantly, their coaches aren't smart enough to see it, that they just don't know how to they only know how to take away. They don't know how to add. And I made a post a while ago, they only bring their first grade level of math. They only know how to subtract. They never know how to add into it. Into someone's diet, and then this is what ends up ruining people from competing in bodybuilding, because they go through a 52-week prep, and then they never want to compete in a bodybuilding show again because their stupid coach doesn't know how to take a 1 diet break or 2 diet breaks along the way. And am I calling out anybody in particular? No, but I feel like it's the industry that is at fault, and the competitors have to be smarter than to believe the shit that their coach is telling them. Even if they're a high-level coach, because there are high-level coaches out there that only know how to press the gas and never know when to take the break. Almost an hour on this one, guys. I'm going to calm down slightly, just slightly, but for those of you who have stuck around, I do have an announcement for Core Nutritionals, which I think is really cool in what they're doing. Over basically from Friday at midnight to, I believe it's the next Friday at midnight. So Friday to Friday, 1 week, Core Nutritionals is running a 20% off on their website. Now, what is very cool, and why I wanted to bring it up in the video, is you guys have the opportunity to get 25% off. So I have a discount code, Iron MGMT, which is Iron Management, short for Iron Management. And if you guys go on their website and you enter my code, you will also actually get another 5% off. And obviously, those of you who know me probably know Core, because I am very closely affiliated with them. And we know that we don't usually discount our prices. Now, you guys that are my clients or that are just friends with me have used my code in the past, and that gives you 20% off. But now we actually have the opportunity to get another 5% off the whole week. So I'm going to put that in the post after I post this video, just to remind everybody if they forget the code. That's a great opportunity, especially if you're doing online sales. We don't really run too many specials. They honestly never run a 20% special. I don't even think they did it last year. So I don't know what Doug, what Carl, and what Patrick are thinking. But honestly, it's a great time. You know, if you have, Carl's giving me all kind of likes. If you have competitors or any family, if you want to stock up for next contest prep, now is the time to buy yourself a nice little Christmas present. So yeah, guys, once again, thanks for tuning into the video. I honestly think this was the longest one. It was 54 minutes. I got a little riled up there at the end. I'm not going to apologize for that, because everything that I say, you know, I feel like is true. It comes from the heart. Hopefully you guys can see my passion for the sport, you know, and that's why I like doing these videos. I like interacting with you guys, and, you know, I've been getting a lot of good feedback from these videos. So I just wanted to thank everybody, you know, for tuning in as always. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, same time, same place. Enjoy your evening. Love you guys.